Today we're going to be studying from John chapter 11. Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. And it was the Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Now that's a future event that's going to happen closer to the time that Jesus is going to go to the cross. That's the Mary who is the sister of Martha and whose brother is Lazarus. It's this Lazarus that's sick, and Jesus is very close with this family. This was the Mary and Martha where Martha was upset that Mary was sitting listening to Jesus' teaching, and she said, Lord, why don't you tell her to help me? Like, it's not fair that I'm doing all the serving while she's sitting here listening to you. And he had said, Martha, Martha, she has chosen the better thing. You worry about a lot of things, but there's only one thing that's necessary, and it won't be taken from Mary. So this is that family that he's very close to. So he would have been very grieved over the fact that Lazarus is about to die if it wasn't for that he knew this had to happen, because it was going to be one more thing that was going to be before he goes to the cross that would be a final attempt to try to prove to the people who he really is. Okay, verse 3. The sisters therefore sent to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. But when Jesus heard it, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified by it. Okay, now I don't know if he said that out loud or if he said it in his head. He might have said it to the apostles that were with him, but they don't understand. If this is what he's already said, they're not understanding it. By the time that Lazarus is dying, they're not getting this. But we know, whether it was something he was thinking or whether he did share it with some of the apostles, that this final miracle is going to again prove who he really is, and more people are going to be putting their faith in him from this one miracle. But ultimately, it's to be glorifying his Father. It's going to prove who he is and who his Father is. Verse 5. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. When therefore he heard that he was sick, he stayed then 2 days longer in the place where he was. So why did he delay? We're going to learn that Lazarus has been sick and died and been in the grave now for 4 days before he gets there. So why did he delay 2 days more? Could he have saved him if he had gotten there before that? Maybe he still wouldn't have made it in time, but we do know that he wants people to understand that this is definitely a miracle. This man has been dead. His body is stinking already. By the time that Jesus is going to arrive, there's going to be no doubt in people's mind that this is a true miracle that they're going to see. And I think that's part of why he delayed 2 days, but also because it wasn't the right time. Maybe it would have moved the crucifixion events along faster, and it all had to happen at just the right time. Okay, verse 7. Then after this, he said to the disciples, Let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and you are going there again? Remember that Jesus had gone into the wilderness area in chapter 10 because they were trying to stone him for the signs that he was doing and the miracles. So he's been out in the wilderness area where John the Baptist had been baptizing. But if he goes to the city now, the apostles are knowing that they're trying to kill you, and they may be successful this time if you go back. Verse 9. Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. I think this is Jesus' way of saying that, look, I'm following after the Father. I'm following after the Spirit. I'm in the light. Nobody's going to get me. Darkness has not yet come on the world, not until I'm going to be going to the cross, and then the lights, darkness comes as he's hanging on the cross. But it's talking about that evil can't overcome light until it's just the right time, that God has got protection around those that are accomplishing his purpose. And even though the darkness wants to overtake the light, it's not going to happen until God's timing. Verse 11. This he said, and after that he said to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go that I may awaken him out of sleep. The disciples therefore said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. Now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought that he was speaking of literal sleep. Then Jesus therefore said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. I think that's an interesting thing of what he just said. He's saying that I'm glad for your sakes that I wasn't there, so that you may believe. Does that mean there's still some that aren't believing that he's Messiah? Well, I think that Judas is one of them. Obviously, he has been not really following Jesus with the right kind of heart all along, but maybe there's some other doubters in their number. So this miracle is going to be able to prove even to those that are doubting who he really is, that he is deity. This is going to be a miracle unlike any of the others that they have seen him do. Verse 16. Thomas, therefore, who is called Didymus, said to his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. He's willing to die now, and so was Peter. He had talked about, I'm willing to die, Lord, as he was getting close to the time of going to the cross. But we know in the future, they're all going to scatter. When it really comes down to the test, when things really get rough, we can think we're going to be strong through a trial, and we can have made up our minds that we're willing to do something, but we really never know until we're experiencing those events just how we'll behave through it, whether we truly have the strong faith that we think we have, or if we're going to be shown that we're not as strong as we think we are. Verse 17. So when Jesus came, he found that he had already been in the tomb 4 days. So there's where Lazarus has been in the tomb for 4 days. His body's stinking by them. Everybody's going to know he's truly dead. This is not a trick that's going to be done. Everybody's going to know that they've seen an awesome miracle. Verse 18. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. Martha, therefore, when she heard that Jesus was coming, went to meet him, but Mary still sat in the house. Martha therefore said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. Sounds like she's got a lot of faith, but she's not really thinking the same way that Jesus is. Because when he talks about that he's going to rise, she has no idea that he's meaning right now. You'll see that in this discussion. So while she has big faith, she's not quite thinking in the same direction that Jesus is. Verse 23. Jesus said to her, your brother shall rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me shall live, even if he dies. Well, how can we still live today if we die? What is he meaning by that? Well, even if we do die in the flesh, we know that our spirit and our soul goes up to heaven. And yes, we do not experience death, because unless we receive eternal damnation, that's the death that he's really saying is the thing that is going to be the real death that we experience. The body death is nothing if we're a believer, but if you're not a believer, you will experience both physical death and death forever spiritually. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I have believed that you are the Christ, the Son of God, even he who comes into the world. And when she had said this, she went away and called Mary, her sister, saying secretly, so she's whispering this to Mary, the teacher is here and is calling for you. And when she heard it, she arose quickly and was coming to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. The Jews then, who were with her in the house and consoling her, when they saw that Mary rose up quickly and went out, followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Therefore, when Mary came where Jesus was, she saw him and fell at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit, and was troubled, and said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. I've heard a couple different teachings about this shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. Some people believe that he was weeping because he had compassion on Mary and Martha and all the people that were grieving over the loss of Lazarus. Some people, though, teach that they believe he was weeping because he was troubled in his spirit because people didn't still believe in him. That many people, even after seeing this miracle, wouldn't believe in him. So it's hard to know what was really going on in his mind, but we do know that he loved Lazarus a lot. We know that he loved Mary and Martha a lot, and he would have felt a certain amount of their grief. But I think he also is troubled in his spirit, knowing that there's still even some of his own number that are not really believing in him the way that they should. Verse 36. And so the Jews were saying, Behold, how he loved him. But some of them said, Could not this man who opened the eyes of him who was blind have kept this man also from dying? So there's the doubt again. Some of the people don't believe that he really is who he was, because if he was, he could have come and saved Lazarus, but he didn't. Okay, verse 38. Jesus therefore again, being deeply moved within, came to the tomb. Now it was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, Remove the stone. Martha, the sister of the deceased, said to him, Lord, by this time there will be a stench, for he has been dead 4 days. Jesus said to her, Did I not say to you, if you believe, you will see the glory of God? So he's got in mind what he's about to do here, to glorify his Father, and the Father's going to glorify the Son through this event that's about to happen. And if people will believe, that's a key word, if. That means that it is possible not to believe, but you have to be blind not to believe. So if you believe, you will see the glory of God. They'll know that they saw a miracle and that this man is definitely the Messiah. Verse 41. And so they removed the stone, and Jesus raised his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hear me. And I knew that you hear me always, but because of the people standing around, I said it, that they may believe, and that you did send me. And when he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. He who had died came forth, bound hand and foot with wrappings, and his face was wrapped around with a cloth. Jesus said to them, Unbind him and let him go. Many, therefore, of the Jews who had come to Mary and beheld what he had done believed in him. But some of them went away to the Pharisees and told them the things which Jesus had done. Those were the non-believers. They wanted the Pharisees to know that Jesus is out there doing these miracles and that it's going to cause more trouble for them because more people are turning to Jesus and abandoning the Pharisees, and they're not going to like this. Okay, verse 47. Therefore the chief priests and the Pharisees convened a council and were saying, What are we doing? For this man is performing many signs. If we let him go on like this, all men will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. So what are they concerned about? This physical world. They don't want the nation to be in trouble, that there'll be conflict over this man, Jesus. They're afraid their place, the temple, is going to be taken from them. So they are willing to focus on the things of this world instead of the spiritual things that Jesus kept trying to get them to see, that he is the Son of God, and that all these physical things on this earth pale in comparison to being around the Messiah and what the Messiah can do it's not about our physical blessings, it's about spiritual blessings that he offers us. But they don't see that, they're too blind. Verse 49. But a certain one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing at all, nor do you take into account that it is expedient for you that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation should not perish." So Annas is his father-in-law, who's the retired high priest, and he will play a part in Jesus's upcoming crucifixion. But at this point, it is Caiaphas that is prophesying. He had prophesied earlier that year, and we'll see the prophecy in just a minute, about how this man is going to cause trouble for our nation if we don't kill him. He had prophesied that earlier in the year. So the people have heard him say that Jesus is going to be responsible for taking down their whole nation if they don't kill him. Verse 51. Now this he said, not on his own initiative, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus was going to die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but that he might also gather together into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. Okay, so here's this part of the prophecy that he probably didn't even understand himself when he said it. Yeah, he is going to have Jesus put to death with his help. It's going to happen. But what is this bringing together into one? All these people and children are scattered all around the world. This is a prophecy that through Jesus, both Jew and Gentile can come into the kingdom. That through Jesus' death, now salvation is going to be offered to all the people, whether they're believers, whether they're not Jews, whether they're Jews, whether they're not Jews, whether they're believers now or whether they'll be believers later because they'll hear the gospel message. So it's going to go all around the world, the message eventually. Verse 53. So from that day on, they planned together to kill him. Jesus therefore no longer continued to walk publicly among the Jews, but went away from there to the country near the wilderness, into a city called Ephraim. And there he stayed with the disciples. So why wasn't he staying in the city? Because he knew that the people were trying to kill him. It was not the right time for him to go to the cross, but it was getting close because God had chosen a certain day that it had to happen, and it's getting close to that day. We'll keep reading. Verse 55. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and many went up to Jerusalem out of the country before the Passover to purify themselves. So this is a purification process called the mikvah. I've talked about that in one of my other videos, that it would have been a burial in the water to purify themselves from any kind of impurities on their skin or any kind of blood or anything that would keep them from being considered clean and pure. So all the people, before they would be able to participate in this feast, had to go through this purification process. We talked about how baptism would have looked not that weird to them because they were already doing this burial in water. But Jesus is going to tell them, just as John told them, that the baptism that was coming was going to be not a cleansing for the outer man, but for the inner man. Okay, verse 56. Therefore they were seeking for Jesus, and they were saying to one another as they stood in the temple, "What do you think? That he will come to the feast at all?" So they're not sure. They're looking for Jesus. They're not seeing him, and they're wondering, is he going to come? It hasn't happened yet. The feast hasn't come yet, but they're days away from it. They're in their purification process. So people are talking. He's the talk of the town. Is he going to come? Because people are going to be trying to kill him, and everybody knows that the Pharisees are wanting to kill Jesus. So they're having these discussions. Will he come or will he not come? Verse 57. Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where Jesus was, he should report it, that they might seize him. So if anybody knows that he's staying out in that wilderness, in that area of Ephraim, near the wilderness, they're supposed to come and tell the Pharisees so that they can seize him. They don't want to do it, though, when it's a lot of people around because they know by now, especially with the miracle that he just did with Lazarus, that a lot of the people are putting their faith in Jesus, and it would be dangerous to try to arrest him in front of the crowd, that they might try to stone them if they were to try to arrest Jesus. So they're going to have to come up with a way to do it in the darkness. And that's where Jesus was saying the darkness is coming. Yep, there's going to be a time of darkness. And when Satan thinks he's got the victory because of it, he sees that Jesus is hanging on the cross and he's thinking he's going to get the victory. Little does he know that he is making a big mistake for his kingdom. And actually, that's the best thing that could happen for the kingdom of God, because that's going to take away our sins. And when the real light can set us free from any kind of bondage that we're in. So that's where we're going to end today.